So if you guys are anything like me, you're the type that kind of tunes out any spiritual mumbo jumbo. And I mean that very much, not in terms of like my own theism, not in terms of me being an atheist, but more in terms of like, if you start talking to me and it sounds like you're saying something that'd be in a Pinterest quote, I'm probably gonna be tuning you out. It's almost like a threshold of like, once you hit that solid like 20%, this could be on a Pinterest board and I wouldn't question it. You're getting listened to a lot less. Just cause like, I don't even know why. To be honest with you, I really don't know why. I wonder if this is a unique thing. I know personally a lot of people that are like this, where it's like, live, laugh, love, stuff like that. I'm like, no, you know what I mean? Like, it's just, I associate these things with being phrases that sound nice and don't actually mean anything, And I think that one of these, not so much phrases, but sentiments is like, do what you're passionate about. Passion will take you all the way. Passion is great. Passion's the best. Insert any quote that you've seen with passion. And that's like probably what I'm talking about here, right? And I always have like remained on that in terms of like passion's cool, but it's not that important. Or maybe if it is important, it's not so much like a big, people have the idea in mind that you're not going to make it unless you're passionate. Make it in whatever that may be, whatever sense you want to take that as. It doesn't need to be making it in some big way. Just you're not going to be good at something unless you're passionate. I've always been like, no, there's no way, because as an example, I'm not good at, or I'm not sorry, let me recalibrate a little bit here. I'm not extremely passionate about file exports when it comes to making videos, but like I'm good at it. Like I know what to do just because, you can get good at things without being passionate. And I think like, this kind of ties into why I tune out a lot of that spiritual mumbo jumbo stuff, is because oftentimes it's right, but when you make something into a motto or a phrase or a poem, you really do make it lose a lot of its meaning, right? This is one of the reasons I've always had an on and off relationship with poetry, because it's like, use more words, Sometimes, as much as I understand that there is a value and like a niceness in being able to phrase something very eloquently, I think that you also do need sometimes to like be like, I'm going to fully explain this right now. You're not going to be able to condense it down into one good sounding sentence, but you're going to actually understand this, And when things get turned into mottos or sayings or things that go on a Pinterest board, you can't do that anymore. You really can't. Which is part of the reason why I've never really taken passion to be all that important, because it was like, no, that's a very vapid idea that passion is the only necessary thing you need to get to where you want to be. Fast forward, separate thought here now, to this year, I have discovered in not insignificant at all places why passion is important for very functional and consequential reasons. Not so much reasons or sentiments that would look good on a Pinterest board, but for reasons and sentiments that are real and like will be encountered. I do think I've heard one of these be put very nicely into a quote. So maybe I'm doing a little bit of false advertising saying these aren't on a Pinterest board anywhere. But you guys get the point. We need to cold open these somehow. And, sometimes you gotta crack an omelet to make a few eggs. You know what I'm saying? Or however that saying goes. Isn't it crazy that Vladimir Lenin said that? Like, my teachers in school said that to me, where they're like, you gotta break a few eggs to make an omelet. Or to make an omelet, you gotta crack eggs. Whatever, the quote I'm talking about. Like, Lenin said that. Like, that's crazy that, like, we all are just like, it's crazy that in the fall of the Soviet Union in 91, they were like, communism thing, terrible, really bad. That quote, we're gonna hang on to that one. I mean, they were right. Like, that's not a bad way to go. It's a great quote. But anyways, back to passion here, right? The first of these ways that I think passion's extremely important is having a sense of dexterity in what you're doing. 2025 is the first year where I've really come into a tough time creatively. I always have said that, like, this creative stuff is very easy. Partially just because I had never encountered a time like what I went through this year, where I had a rough patch, right? And because of this, I saw very directly an area in which passion is super necessary, and that's to get you through things, right? So you're going to, or maybe you already have, and let me know if you have. By the way, I always have to throw this out there. I have been busy lately. I'll get back to responding to comments soon. I'm aware that, like, the last 2 weeks, I have not done the best job of it. There's gonna be times like that, to be honest. I hate to say it. I hate to be like, I feel like kind of rude saying that, because it's so nice that you guys take the time to leave comments. But, like, work, other things get in the way where it's like I need to focus on just getting them out and going back to what I gotta do. So I'll be back to respond to comments. But the point is, like, I hit a patch where it was like, man, I'm struggling to do the creative work for a multitude of reasons. Partially because, and this is something that, like, they always say, but, like, the journey's never easy. You know what I mean? If being creative, if making stuff that people enjoyed watching, and, like, just making good art in general was this very easy thing, everyone would do it. Like, it'd be a much more common thing. I gotta get myself some paper towels here. I should have had those out and ready. Look at how unprepared I am. If creative work was that easy, everyone would be doing it. You know what I mean? So there's a reason they say, like, it's not easy. And, I still don't know if I can quite put this into words. I still don't know if I'm 100% equipped to really say that I understand exactly why creative work is so hard. But I experienced firsthand this year for the first time, like, oh, there's rough patches to this. Like, it's not something where you're gonna feel great about the work all the time. Sometimes those rough patches come because of a lack of success, to be quite frank with you. It's like, oh, I'm putting all this work in, and people aren't seeing it, or whatever the struggle may be there. You're gonna have those times where it's like, there's something wrong here, and it's me, or it's, and that's where the self-doubt comes in. Delusional confidence is unironically a very useful tool to be good at creative work, because there's times where it's like, man, like, I thought I had this great thing, and I showed it to somebody and they hated it. And, like, what do you do in that scenario? The only real option is to keep going. But even that starts to feel illogical when, you start really thinking about everything. Oftentimes, which this is bizarre, but it's a huge pattern I see, everyone I know that's, like, really into doing creative work sacrifices, like, a ton for it. Like, I don't know anyone who's, like, into this creative stuff that's not genuinely putting in a ton of hours or really, like, giving it their all. You know what I mean? Like, people don't really start this to just mess around. No matter what that is. I keep using creative work here as a very loose term, but I'm doing that for a reason. I want it to be able to apply to you guys in whatever work that may be. Some of you might have creative work in terms of, like, you're working on a PhD thesis. That's creative work in a lot of ways. Some of you, it may be you're trying to springboard into a career in, like, screenwriting. Whatever it is, this, I think, applies to it. I think it even applies to other things, because I've said that I think life is creative work in a lot of ways, but, that's kind of veering off the point a little bit there. You're gonna hit these times where it gets really hard for no reason, and it's like, I'm having doubts in this right now. And especially with how much you're sacrificing, it's very easy to look at the picture in front of you and go, my creative work seems really small right now, it seems really unimportant. And how do you keep going in that? How do you keep going when life gets busy? And it's like, well, now I just spent the whole day working on, real things, or, like, I'm working on getting a new job, or I need to make money somehow, or I'm struggling in this area of my life, and I'm going to earnestly sit down and take an hour of my time to work on a drawing and get this hand proportion right. You feel silly doing that after a little while, And I hate to say it, because I do take all this so seriously, and there is nothing silly about taking an hour to get that hand proportion right, but it feels silly no matter how into it you are. And those times where you come into a situation like that, the only thing that got me through personally was passion, and that passion can take multiple forms too. I think passion in its very understood colloquial sense is hugely applicable here, of just like, I love doing drawing, so it is in my nature to sit down and do this handwork right now, on getting the portions of that hand right, and that, hypothetical there. But I think this passion can take a different, form too, of, I have this really great life goal. Maybe for you, it's a political project or something like that. I know people like that, where it's like, I have this political idea I want to see actualized. That causes me to wake up every morning and genuinely put in the work because I believe in meaning. Maybe it's something where you're working on a company to democratize information, and I think it's a lot of people doing that might wake up and be like, no, I genuinely believe that everyone has the right to information. And for that reason, even though things are hard right now, I'm going to get up and do this. Passion can take all these forms, and it really is the only shield out there, in my opinion. And I don't often talk in onlys, but I think it really is, well, passion and maybe a lot of money. But we'll stay on the passion road here. I think it really truly is one of the only things out there that can block out all those other things when the times get hard. And for that reason, I think that like there is a huge like functional reason there of like, that's why passion's so important, because someday you're gonna need it. People often say that passion is this thing that separates the people that make it from the people that don't. Again, using make it in whatever terms you want to think of it. And I've always thought that was like a really, sorry, I'm grabbing paint while I'm thinking. Isn't this huge, by the way? Like, isn't this massive? I accidentally ordered the wrong size, and this came, and I was like, oh my god. Like, I'm never running out of black paint. We're gonna have to do more black paintings towards the end of this series, because we got it for days, guys. There's this idea that passion is this thing that separates people that make it from the people that don't. And I've always kind of been like, no, like, I'm sure there are other things that separate them too. I still do think there are, namely luck, to be honest with you all. I do think that luck plays more of a role than people often want to admit, but I get why now people say that passion's one of those things that does separate it, because how do you make it through those tough times without passion, And that's why I say luck is maybe the only other alternative, because the only way that you don't have to go through those tough times if you're extremely lucky. And to me, what makes sense is like, even if you don't go through that tough time while you're like still, trying to get good at whatever you want to get good at, or, make it in these metaphorical terms, I'm using that phrase in for some reason. There is like, something will come someday that does test you, right? And if you're not passionate, it's either gonna A, make what you're doing really miserable, or B, you're not gonna make it out. Like, I do see after going through something where it's like, I needed all my passion to be in the back of my mind to get me through that thing. After going through that, I really was like, oh, I get that now, And that is one of those things that just needs to click sometimes. I've spoken about this before, about how I think there's a great value in like messing up and in having to just like have something click and go through a tough time, or fuck up again and again and again until you're like, oh, I get it now. I think there's a huge value in that. And maybe that lesson of needing passion is no different for me, of like, I needed to see that firsthand to understand like, oh no, that is very important. The other area in which I think passion is extremely functionally important is a very simple one. Of you to get good at something, typically, are gonna have to do it like a lot, like every day, right? And in order to do something every day, you do need a degree of passion. And I don't wanna, this is a tough one to tackle, right? Because it's an extremely simple idea of, if you're passionate about something, you're gonna do it a lot, right? But you can also do something a lot without being passionate about it. I think, though, that similar to what I was just saying, as far as like, you're gonna hit a rough patch of something eventually, and the passion needs to get you through. You're gonna hit rough patches in terms of trying to do something every day, right? Totally. And passion is one of those things that can get you through those rough patches as well. Of like, somebody who's, let's say you're trying to get good at drawing, right? You want to be the greatest sketch artist on earth, something like that, right? If you are passionate about sketching and you've just been doing it your whole life for fun, when you're having those hard times, you're gonna sit down and sketch for fun in order to blow off steam or relax or whatever it may be. If you are not passionate about it and you do it as a point of discipline, like you put it down on a list and you're like, I'm going to do this every day and get good at it, when things are tough, usually that toughness will make that list go away. It'll make that hard to do. I know this has happened with me before with things that I do every day that I'm not passionate about. Example that maybe some people can relate to is the gym. I go to the gym, I've been working out consistently for 5 years now, but like when I'm having a busy time, it's usually one of the first things to go, because I'm not that passionate about it. And when you give me a reason not to do something I'm not passionate about, or I don't enjoy doing, of course, that's gonna happen. I think that's why the gym is something that people fall out of so much. But if you're passionate about that, then I know a ton of people who, when they're having a tough time, when they're going through something, the gym is the first place they go to blow off that steam. And that's why they're in such great shape, So when passion is there, it makes something that is work into leisure. And when something is now leisure, that was once work, you're gonna get really good at it. Especially if it's work to other people and leisure to you, you have a huge advantage over everyone else. And I think that's why the advice you so often see is like, just do what you're good at and do really good at it, which I kind of hate, because it's like, I hate it, but it's also true, you know what I mean? It's one of those things. Anyways, this is the painting. As you guys know, it's Paint&Talk 75 today, and I paint a sphere every 25 Paint&Talks, so I'll check in. This is terrible, like this is worse than the last sphere. Not because I've regressed, but because I have not cleaned these brushes. So I only had 2 brushes to do this with, and can I be honest, guys? I kind of rocked that. For having 2 brushes and just the edges of this one that I use to blend, like, not bad. I also think that there's almost something cool about the fact that I learned a new technique of doing that scratchy blending with that brush during a check-in. I think that's really cool, actually. Like I kind of like that. Like, I kind of love that. So, like, is it good? It's wobblier than what I would want, and like I think I'm good enough to execute like a real sphere at this point, so I'm kind of mad that we're gonna have to wait till Paint&Talk 100 to see that happen. But hey, it only makes sense that we gotta wait till episode 100 to see a sphere. You know what I mean? Like, 100 days of painting, I should be able to do a good sphere. So go check this out over on the Instagram to see it typed up with a little explanation, little caption, explaining the techniques and making tons of excuses for why it came out this way. And until tomorrow, guys, gals, and pals, my name is Max Dice, and this has been Paint&Talk, episode 75. I'm here every morning, painting and talking with you all. 75, everybody. 75, ladies and gentlemen. Folks, 75.